Chapter 2 Dust Haven, a city on Mars in the vicinity of Gale Crater. Celine had been working at Ashcroft Corporation for a few months, wrangling exhibition logistics and somehow keeping up with her volleyball games. An athlete through and through, with a competitive streak that didn't exactly mesh with her corporate day job. The exhibitions she helped organize in Martian city Dust Haven showcased Ashcroft's cutting-edge technology. Firearms gleaming beneath artificial lights, civilian spacecraft polished like jewels, sleek robotics, and intricate implants. The attendees? The wealthy elite, many of whom were involved in shady trades, arms dealers mingling like aristocrats. One of them was Brad. He was charming, dangerous, and carried the kind of dark allure that made him hard to resist. His reputation was legendary. He sold to both sides of wars and came out richer every time. For weeks, he pursued Celine, confident his charm would wear her down. And perhaps, in some ways, it did. By the time of their third date, he had her attention slightly more than he imagined. The 317th floor of Brad's hotel overlooked Gale Crater. It was a breathtaking view, the artificial reservoirs reflecting the crater's jagged walls, while rows of pine trees swayed in the Martian breeze. As they undressed, the air between them was heavy, but something lingered, something darker. For Brad, it was a deal. He couldn't get his mind off it, needing to know if his latest transaction had gone through. Celine, in the half-light of the room, watched him.
"Don't keep me waiting too long,"
she teased, her voice low and sultry.
"or I might start to reconsider."
"I wouldn't, Celine,"
he said with a half-smile, voice smooth as synth silk. Celine raised an eyebrow, letting the sheet fall from her shoulder as she crossed one toned leg over the other.
"Curious enough to wonder what you're really doing up here, Brad? This isn't just about drinks and moonlight."
He approached, the soft whir of climate adjusters whispering as he moved.
"Can't a man want both of you in good company?"
She hummed, not looking convinced.
Except you checked your comms 3 times since I unzipped my dress."
Brad chuckled, low in his throat.
"Force of habit, deals don't sleep, even on Mars."
He finally turned, slipping off the wrist pad, setting it face down on the sleek surface of the nightstand.
"You think I'm doing this out of habit?"
"I think you're doing it because it's the only thing that makes you feel real."
She said, almost gently.
"The deals, the danger, the power."
He sat beside her on the bed, close, but not touching.
"And what do you do, Celine, when no one's looking?"
She didn't answer right away. Brad, distracted by his business, only smiled.
"Just a moment, Celine,"
he said, already turning toward the window. He slipped on his VR headset, fingers dancing over the invisible keys as he inputted the 24-phrase security key to check his accounts. What Brad didn't know was that Celine's watchful eyes weren't just playing along. She had a secret of her own, a military-grade eye implant. It wasn't the kind of cheap tech they sold in Martian back alleys. It was sleek, invisible, and incredibly precise. She recorded every phrase Brad entered, his every move reflected in the window. She already knew everything he did, more in fact. Quietly, Celine dressed and approached him. The room was still, her steps unhurried. She slipped the VR band from his head and looked into his eyes, her hands moving like a lover's touch along his cheek. The moment hung between them, a perfect kiss waiting, but it was more than that. Beneath the surface, her left hand nail held a deadly secret, a toxin, undetectable, lethal. All it took was a small scratch. Brad's face twisted in surprise as his body began to fail him. His heart seized. He was gone before he could understand. Celine stood over him for a moment, her gaze lingering on his lifeless form, and then turned to the window. The Martian winds howled, shaking the glass. She called for her hoverbike, sleek and silent, and within moments it was there. Without hesitation, she stepped out into the night, the wind swallowing her up as she disappeared into the darkness, leaving Brad and his secrets far behind. Celine descended from the upper tiers of the district, the Martian capital's translucent spires fracturing the late afternoon light into sharp vectors of gold and crimson. Her hoverbike moved like a whisper down through the city strata, past exhaust plumes and advertisement auras, to the shadowed garage space she'd quietly rented the previous week. Inside, the air was dry and faintly metallic. Her gear weighted, folded, and ordered with ritualistic precision. The catsuit, light reactive and breathable. The pistol, matte black, embossed with the unmistakable insignia of Black Omega. She holstered the weapon, clipped the comm device to her inner sleeve, and sealed the helmet over her head. The transition was complete. Celine, the woman, was gone. What remained was the operative named Athena Somerset. The Martian plains greeted her like a long-forgotten memory. Vast, ochre, cut by ancient valleys where once nothing could survive. A century ago, this would have been suicide, open exposure to ultraviolet death and atmospheric vacuum. But now, terraforming efforts, part miracle, part geopolitical bargaining chip, had sculpted a new biosphere. Pine forests marched across foothills. Lakes, cold and deep, reflected the silhouettes of arcologies in their still waters. Industry hummed discreetly just over the horizon. She rode fast. The hoverbike skimmed just above a reservoir's edge. 10 kilometers of captured glacial meltwater stretched like a lung beneath her.
At that point, a patrol unit locked on to her trajectory. A single blue flare on her rear sensor told her what she already suspected. Local enforcement. Not a real threat, but a nuisance. She didn't slow. As the reservoir ended, she veered sharply, taking the bike into the whispering reach of a dense pine expanse, the needles parting for her like strands of data. The patrol hovercar, all bulk and regulatory bravado, couldn't follow. It scraped against trunks, spat warning sirens, and gave up. 15 minutes later, the forest spat her out near a forgotten landing pad. Concrete cracked, moss creeping over the faded coalition stencils. The bunker beside it was unlit, hunched low like something ashamed to still exist. She dismounted, approached the rusting entry port, and keyed the encrypted communications device.
Darkmoor. Task complete. Target won't be conducting further trade. I've also retrieved his account credentials.
Was termination necessary?
She hesitated just long enough to suggest she'd thought about it.
Probably not, but it was efficient. You got what you needed. He dealt weapons. His ledger won't be missed.
There was no judgment in the voice that returned, only calculus.
Understood. Stand by. Rain's eclipse is en route. 30 minutes. Remain at the landing site. Its telemetry suits our descent vectors. A retrieval shuttle is inbound from high orbit, silent for now, but already threading its descent vectors toward your coordinates.
Good. I'll be gone before the dust settles.
Take time. Rest. Drift if you must. Somewhere in the belt. No new assignments for now. But remember this. With every operation, you're reshaping Mars.
The channel clicked off. Athena sat down on the warm hull of her hoverbike, pine needles falling in slow spirals through the still Martian air. Somewhere above, the void stirred, and far beyond even that, a shuttle burned a silent path through the cold.
Asteroid belt. Outskirts of dwarf planet Ceres. Earth Coalition destroyer Hermes. After Captain John Torden left Hermes to have a holiday on Ceres, command of the Hermes fell squarely on the shoulders of First Officer Will Coniston. The ship was pushing through the edge of an asteroid field, skimming 300,000 kilometers past Ceres en route to Mars, when one of the bridge techs flagged him down.
Commander Coniston, we've got something. Drifting patrol boat. No drive plume, no heat, cold as vacuum. Could have been hit, could have been dumped.
Will leaned over the console, eyes flicking through the returns. The boat was just spinning slowly, half tilted, half dead.
Bring us in, close enough to get a serial off it.
Already tried, sir. Visuals show the hull's been scrubbed. Titles and numbers are stripped.
Will frowned.
We're not going to learn anything from the outside. Prep a team. I want eyes inside that boat.
10 minutes later, he was suited up by the Hermes port airlock with 2 officers, both in full vacuum gear. Magnetic boots clanked to the deck. The outer hatch cycled, and the 3 of them stepped off into the black. Will drifted first, pushing toward the patrol boat. He'd seen enough Mars-built hulls to know where to find the manual hatch. A gentle burn of nitrogen sent him gliding straight to it. The others followed, silent shadows in the dark. The airlock was unlocked. That was the first bad sign. No tethers, just practiced motion and the faint whisper of maneuvering thrusters. Inside, the ship was a tomb. No lights, no gravity, and the bodies, some still in partial gear, others tangled in straps, floated like refuse, rigid, cold. The stink of dead air caught in the suit filters.
Should be a crew of 15.
One of the officers said.
Patrol class, short range. Series to Mars at best, and that's pushing it on fuel.
Will nodded.
We're looking for a story. Head for the bridge.
It wasn't far. Half the consoles were sparking or broken. The others were slogged entirely, melted out with thermite or pulsed with EMP. Either way, someone had wanted them unreadable.
Dead end.
Will said, kicking gently off the deck and gliding back toward the hatch.
Notify Ceres and Mars. Someone's flying under one of their flags. Let's hope we're early to this party.
Sir, black box isn't here.
One of the officers called out, checking a panel near engineering. Will swore under his breath.
Of course it isn't.
The officer drifted beside a control panel, brushing off a smear of paint.
Internal serials are gone too. Painted over. Looks like they stripped all the ID tags even from the body's uniforms.
Will floated in the dead air for a moment, processing.
This wasn't a hit. It was an erasure. Someone didn't want this boat to have a past.
The junior officer spoke up, voice flat.
There's barely enough room on this class for anything valuable.
Will frowned. Whatever they were after, it wasn't cargo.
No.
Will agreed.
It was data. Access. Launch codes. Docking permissions. Anything they could use to fly right into a coalition port and look like they belonged.
He turned, tapped his helmet comm.
We're done here. Back to Hermes. We've got a ghost on our radar, and I'd want every coalition berth from here to Mars on high alert.
They pushed off, drifting back into the void. Behind them, the dead patrol boat hung in space, silent and stripped of memory. Orbit of Dwarf Planet Ceres. Ceres Orbital Resort. The great toroidal station drifted in serene equilibrium, poised 700 kilometers above the variegated surface of Ceres. Around its central axis, a slender spindle, 300 meters in diameter, the immense ring turned with deliberate grace. With a radius of 4 kilometers and a cross-sectional thickness of 500 meters, the ring housed the primary habitation zones, where artificial gravity, born not of mass but of motion, granted Earth-like comfort to its privileged guests. At the base of the central spindle, a smaller auxiliary ring extended like a mechanical halo, its surface encrusted with arrays of solar panels. In the perpetual sunlight of Ceres' orbit, these silent collectors fed supplemental power to the station's fusion power generators, ensuring that life, light, and gravity continued in quiet perpetuity amid the vacuum. Among the myriad of stations encircling Ceres, this one was a luxury retreat with an unbeatable view of Ahuna Mons, the lone 4.1 kilometer high mountain jutting from the surface below. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the tennis court. A couple moved back and forth in the dusty glow, locked in a grueling match. The net stretched higher than regulation, and neither John nor Lana showed any sign of giving up. The lower gravity, about 3/4 of Earth's, made every leap hang in the air just a little longer, allowing them to pull off moves impossible back home. They spun, twisted, and dove in arcs that would have made any earthbound athlete jealous. John leaped high, twisting midair, and swung his racket, his feet still meters off the ground. The ball rocketed towards Lana, who met it with a sharp backhand, her feet barely brushing the court before she launched into another jump. The volley went on like that, back and forth, both of them defying physics, until finally, John mistimed a hit. The ball glanced off the edge of his racket and drifted out of bounds, the final point.
Damn it!
John landed with a frustrated thud, wiping sweat from his forehead. He squinted against the blinding light.
If I wasn't playing against the sun, I'd never miss that shot, Lana.
Lana, still floating from her last jump, touched down softly and grinned, walking toward him.
Why am I not surprised? There's always an excuse.
She said, flashing him a sly smile. John rolled his eyes, chuckling despite himself. The game was over. John and Lana sprawled on sun loungers in the ring section, the soft hum of the station a gentle reminder of the world turning below them. They were exhausted, still feeling the weight of yesterday's trip to Ahuna Mons. Even with Ceres' feeble gravity, a mere 3% of Earth's, the trip has been no small feat. Most of it, sure, they glided on personal flyers that made movement in low gravity feel effortless, but the climb had still taken its toll. From their spot, on station, the couple could take in the grandeur of Ceres, visible through the transparent ceiling above. A quarter of the station's rings stretched out before them, dotted with luxury resorts, shimmering pools, and vibrant tropical parks. The view of Ceres itself dominated the left side of the ceiling, its pockmarked surface rolling by slowly. To the right, a faint yellow dot glowed on the horizon. Jupiter. So far, yet so bright.
You know what I'd change about this moment, Lana?
He turned his head just enough to see her profile against the false sky.
Not a damn thing. Even losing feels perfect. Under this dim little sun.
There was laughter, but only in her eyes. They had grown fluent in each other's silences.
You know what would actually make this moment better? 3 more pina coladas. 4 if you plan to keep sulking about the game.
And who's going to get them?
His voice was lazy, teasing.
Certainly not the lady with a PhD. You don't ask scholars to fetch tropical drinks.
She reached for his hand without looking. He squeezed it, lightly.
John, have you thought about getting out of the military? I know it's a lot to ask, but even though we see each other often on these stations, time apart still feels like forever.
Her voice was soft, but there was a weight behind it, the kind of pressure that built up over too much time spent apart. The silence between them was filled with the distant hum of the station, the faint tremor of machines doing their work, keeping this fragile bubble of life hanging over the gray surface of Ceres.
You're right, Lana. 15 years in uniform. 15 years of orders, dust, and recycled air. It wears down more than just the body. Even now, captaining a destroyer has its moments. But after a while, the stars all blur, and the metal starts to feel like a coffin with a view. There are sweeter things in the void than command. And I think I found a few of them.
Lana leaned back, letting out a breath.
My brother's been on Mars for years now. He won't shut up about how you can walk outside without a breather. Terraforming's gone so well, it's like you can feel the planet. Like you're touching the world instead of being sealed off from it.
John snorted.
Yeah, well, if you want to trade this for Mars, I'm sure we can work something out.
He flicked a glance her way, then back at the observation window.
Though between you and me, I'm not sure who's got more dangerous job, me or you. That little discovery of yours down in the dirt? Yeah, I haven't had a decent night's sleep since you brought it up. An ancient structure no one can explain. How's that coming along?
Lana rolled her eyes, arms crossed.
Oh, you know, just another day cracking the uncrackable. That thing's a snub cube. Seriously, that's the shape. Made from some mystery alloy that doesn't exist anywhere else. We've dated the surrounding rock, and it's been down there for 20,000 years. 20,000.
She paused, smirking. And those little markings you were so worried about?
Probably just fabrication codes. Nothing dramatic like beware of space demons or anything.
John ran a hand through his hair.
Comforting.
Isn't it?
Lana's grin widened.
Of course, for every answer we dig up, 10 more questions show up to the party. Like, who built it? Why here? But hey, at least we've got a snub cube. That's gotta count for something, right?
There was a hint of frustration buried in it, however. The kind that came from knowing you were scratching at the surface of something enormous, but still couldn't see the whole picture.
And what's Ashcroft planning to do about it? Just sit on it? Pretend it doesn't exist while they figure out how to make a profit off it? We could crack this mystery if everyone worked together.
You know how it works, John. Corporations bury this kind of thing deep, especially if there's a chance they can use it to get ahead. They'd sit on it for another 20 years if it means staying in control.
She sighed, a weariness creeping into her voice.
They're not going to let this one out into the open unless they have to.
Lena's voice came softly, as if shaped more by memory than speech.
John, I never told you, but I learned something about Ashcroft.
He turned his head, the name alone enough to conjure shadows.
What kind of something?
She hesitated. The pause wasn't dramatic, just the kind of silence people offer when speaking of the dead.
Back when the Nova Concordia broke away, Richard Ashcroft didn't just lose a corporate asset, he tried to hold it, the way empires always do, through blood and silence.
John said nothing. Lana continued.
There's a rumor, one of those whispers that moves like gravity, unseen but shaping everything. Ashcroft used a black operations unit, sleeper agents, embedded in the Jupiter system. When diplomacy failed, they executed the board members of the breakaway, 2/3 dead in a single week. One of them was Logan Severance's wife.
John's breath caught just enough for Lana to hear it.
Severance, the architect of Nova's industrial might, the man who'd turned exile into empire.
That's not a story I ever want confirmed.
He said finally.
Because if it's true, we're all just living in the aftermath of ghosts who never stopped killing.
Lana nodded once, slowly.
And some of them are still very much alive.
Well, we've still got 3 days left on this vacation. Maybe we can try to clear our heads. What do you think about checking out that icy crater tomorrow?
I don't know, John. I'm wiped. I don't think I have it in me to go exploring for the next few days.
He chuckled softly, shaking his head.
Guess I underestimated your stamina, huh?
She laughed too, but it was soft, distant.
So I managed to get us a spot at less fare for Friday.
Wait, the floating death trap in the docking ring? The one where they serve their food in 0G and charge you more for gravity-optional seating?
That's the one. And it's not a death trap. It's a culinary experience.
The station's massive ring began to shudder, then slowly wind down its spin. John felt the change first, the slight shift in his center of gravity, a familiar, unsettling sensation. Then it hit, weightlessness. He and Lana began to float, their feet no longer tethered to the deck, and everything around them, everything not bolted down, rose into the air. A wrench clinked past John's shoulder, spinning lazily. Then the water, an entire pool's worth, drifted by in a massive, undulating blob. It was surreal, mesmerizing even. The red warning lights flickered to life across the nearby displays, flashing like angry eyes. Alarms buzzed, harsh and grating, and the screens lit up with emergency paths, directing them towards safe zones.
Looks like we've got another gravity ring malfunction.
John reached out, snagging a railing to stop his slow drift through the air.
This happened before?
Lana didn't respond, but her wide eyes said it all. This wasn't the kind of problem you wanted to face out here. Sure, the station had protocols, backups, but the weightlessness wasn't the worst of it. The real danger was what came next. The gravity wouldn't just stay off. At some point, it would kick back in, maybe too hard, maybe in the wrong direction, and if you were floating when that happened, well, best to hope you were near something soft. The water blob passed between them, spinning slowly, catching the red emergency lights in its ripples.
Lana's eyes were drawn to a large ceiling window. She frowned.
John, do you see Jupiter? That red dot near it? I swear it's getting closer.
John glanced up, squinting at the distant planet.
It's probably just a cargo ship, but the next one wasn't scheduled for another week.
The red dot continued to grow, splitting into two, one large, one smaller.
Huh. Okay. That's new.
The smaller ship veered off, cutting through the black and heading straight for the station. As it neared, it latched onto one of the large observation windows, its hull pressing flush against the glass. Without warning, two beams of red energy lanced out from the ship, melting through the glass like it was ice under a blowtorch. A perfectly cut piece floated inward, tumbling in the zero-G, and before John could even react, 7 figures in military-grade spacesuits streamed through the breach.
Lana, get down!
Tourists nearby started screaming, trying to float toward their resorts, scrambling for the emergency exits. Security bots were nowhere to be seen, probably malfunctioning, or worse, hacked. John's heart raced as he reached for his uniform stashed under the lounger. His pistol was there, always kept close, just in case. The intruders didn't hesitate. They moved with eerie precision, flying through the air at speed, closing in on John and Lana like they knew exactly where to go.
Lana, behind that power core, now!
They floated for cover, but the soldiers were faster, moving at 100 meters a minute, at least. John barely had time to pull out his pistol, his fingers steady as he fired a shot. It hit one of the soldiers, sending him spinning off course, but it was only a second's reprieve. 2 of the others leveled their rifles and fired. John barely saw the yellow arcs of energy before he felt the hit, a stunning shockwave that knocked him off his feet. Lana crumpled beside him, her body going limp. The soldiers landed around them, silent, methodical. 7 faceless suits surrounded them now.
We need only the lady. Leave the man.
Are we supposed to kill the male?
No. Our objective is to kidnap Dr. Lana Skye. The contractor wasn't interested in casualties. Grab the woman, and we are out.
They moved swiftly, lifting Lana's limp body. She floated in zero-G as they carried her toward their ship, still attached to the station's ceiling. Security bots approached, but the intruders disabled them with ease, as though they'd rehearsed this 100 times.